Hello Year 2. So our fact of the day today is 11 times 2 is 22. We're going to look at this fact a little bit differently. So we're going to do the 4 number sentences, but then we're going to explore a bit more of the higher times 2 facts and how to work them out. So we've got a picture here that shows 11 sets of 2 make 22. And just in case we don't believe ourselves, that is, let's just check. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. So 11 twos make 22. And then here I've got a picture of 2 11s. So 2 times 11 equals 22. And we'll just do the inverse fact as well. So if you divide 22 into 2s, which is what that picture shows, you get 11 twos. And if you divide 22 into 11s, in this picture, you get 2 11s. Now, what I've noticed about this fact is that it's going to be a really good way just to revise our column addition, because doing 11 and 11 as column addition is going to help us remember how we add up the 10s and the 1s. So write down those 4 facts first, and then we're going to practice some of the higher times 2 facts. Remember, times 2 is just the same as doubling, because it's getting 2 of the same number. So times 2 is the same as doubling a number. So if we were doing 2 11s, we could write it as an addition. 11, add 11. So remember, these are the 10s and these are the 1s. So we've got 2 1s and we've got 2 10s. Now we're going to use that to try and work out some of the others. So let's just write that one down because we know that one. 11 times 2 equals 22. So now let's try and use the same method to work out 12 times 2. Let's get a different colour pen. So 12 times 2, remember, is the same as 12 and 12. So I'm going to put 12 there, 12 there, and we're adding them. And I want you to practice writing these in your books neatly using the squares. So we've got the 10s here and the 1s there. So 2 and 2 is, hopefully you know, 4. 1 10 add 1 10 makes 2 10s. So 12 times 2 equals 24. Now we're going to use the same method now to work out 13 times 2 and 14 times 2. So I'm going to show you how to write them out, but then I want you to work out the answers. So we're going to put 13 up the top, 13 down the bottom, because it's double 13. Those are the 10s, those are the 1s. See if you can work that one out. Then we're going to do 14 and 14. Those are the 10s and those are the 1s. And now maybe as a challenge, how would you record 15 times 2 using that? Because that's when it gets tricky. I can just fit it in on the edge here. 15, 15. Because you are going to have a problem there, because 5 and 5 makes 10, and we know you are not allowed to have 10 1s. So I wonder if anyone can remember how to work that one out and how to record it using the columns. You might already know what double 15 is, but how can you record it using the squares and the columns? So have a go at those in your book. Our TRP for today is, can I divide a number equally? So we're really going to focus today just on division. We've talked about division a lot as the inverse of multiplication, but today we're going to look at some practical ways how you can divide a number equally. The reason why division is a bit tricky is, just like multiplication, there are sort of 2 different ways of doing it. Really, that makes it easier because it means you can just choose the easiest way, but it sometimes can mean you get a bit muddled thinking about what you need to do to the number. So we're going to start off just quickly looking at what you might have learnt in year 1, which is where you do division as sharing. So here we've got 2 toys and we've got 6 biscuits. So if we were going to divide the biscuits, we need to put the big number first, which is a 6. And if we divided them between the 2 toys, that would be sharing them between the toys. So 1 for you, 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 and 1 for you. So you'd look at how many biscuits they've got each. They've got 3 each. You need to make sure it's fair. They need to have an equal number each. So that's dividing by sharing. Now their friend has joined them. So now we've got to divide the 6 between 3 toys and see how many they get each. So hopefully you already know that that one will get 2, that one will get 2, and that one will get 2. So 6 shared between 3 would be 2. So sharing is useful, especially when you've got a group of objects, and especially when you're dividing by 2, because 2 does just mean splitting things in half, but it also means dividing it into 2. So when you haven't got things to use, and if you want to use your multiples to help you, the easier way of doing it is by counting in the group. So that's what we're going to be learning today. We're going to be dividing by putting things into equal groups. So here I've got 8 biscuits, and we're going to divide them by 2. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this. You can split it down the middle, which is quite tricky. It's easy with biscuits, but if that was a drawing of 8 biscuits, it'd be quite hard to split it down the middle. Or what we're going to do instead is we're going to put it into groups of 2s. How many 2s are in 8? So we've got 4 2s in 8. And so you could have done that by counting up in multiples. You could have gone 2, 4, 6, 8 on your fingers, and you would have ended up with 4 fingers. Now, just to check that it works the other way around, it also works if you split 8 into 2. So I've split it now down the middle. It's still 4. So it means the same thing. It's the easiest way to work it out. Here's one more example. We've got 10 little people. I think some of them might be owls. So 10 is going to be the big number. I'm going to divide it by 2. Now, if we were using sharing, that would be like choosing 2 football teams. So if we have some manager of one team, some manager of the other team, and then they line up in their teams. You've got to share them out equally. Remember, 1 for you, 1 for you, 1 for you, 1 for you, and 1 for you. And how many are on each team? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be if you were using sharing. But remember, we're going to be using grouping. Let's spread them all out again. So if we're going to see how many 2s, we need to put them in 2s, like they're going to choose a partner. Those 2, those 2, those 2, and those 2. So that shows you how many 2s are in 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's still the same answer. It's just another way of working it out. And if you were counting in multiples on your fingers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, to get your 5 fingers, that would help you work that one out. So we're going to be using grouping to divide numbers. So you are going to need your sets of objects again, whether it's bits of Lego, bits of pasta. You're going to need a set of things so you can divide them up, so you can group them. So here we've got 12 squares or 12 cubes, and we're going to divide them up. So the big number is going to be 12. So any number sentences I do with this are going to be dividing up 12. At the moment, it's already a division number sentence. It's 12 divided into groups of 1. And how many groups of 1 have we got? We've got 12 of them. So there's already a number sentence there. So now let's divide it up into a different group. Let's divide it into 2s. So that's like saying how many 2s, how many of this number are in this number. And with your counters, you can put them in 2s and see how many 2s you get. So move them, so it's easier when you can move things. So how many groups of 2 have I got there? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 12 divided into 2s is 6. There are 6 2s. Let's choose another number to divide it into. Let's do 12 divided into 4s this time. So remember, we want to find out how many 4s we can make out of 12. Now if you remember your number facts, you might remember some of these already. Try and make nice neat 4s. So that's a 4. That's a 4. Remember, there's got to be equal groups. You've got to be able to make the exact number or it's not divided equally. So how many groups of 4 have we got? 1, 2, 3. So 12 divided into 4s equals 3. And remember, the inverse is a way of checking that because we know 3 times 4 is 12. So you can check it by doing the inverse. Now let's choose a bigger number. Let's see 12 divided into 6s. So how many 6s are we going to make out of 12? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 1 6. Hopefully you've already guessed the answer. So how many 6s have I made out of my 12? I've got 1, 2. So 12 divided into 6s is 2 6s because the opposite of that is 6 times 2 equals 12. If the inverse works, then it means you've got your calculation right. So to start with, I want you to make sure you've got your 12 counters, your 12 objects, and I want you to write these number sentences into your books and write the answers down. So remember, you're trying to find out how many 2s are in 12, how many 3s, how many 4s, how many 6s. And even if you already know the answers, because we've just done some of them, I want you to do it yourself with the counters to prove that it works. And then you can have a go at these ones. Now remember, the first number tells you how many counters you need. So you need 6 for this one, and then you're going to put them into groups of 3. This one you still need 6 counters. You're going to see how many 2s you can make. This one you're going to get 8 and see how many 2s you can make. So make sure you use the counters to make the groups. And of course we know there are other ways of doing it. You could just split 8 into 2. But today I want you to make the groups of 2. So write those into your books and write the answers.